Hey, causa, habla, pe. ¿Qué estás hablando, papi? Pero peruano, sí, papi, sí. Soy peruano, Pero aquí estamos narrando, gastando en inglés, papi. This morning in the top right hand corner of Era Home, we have our Red Protoss player. Our Red Protoss representing the Platinum Heroes. Currently down in the series, we'll see if he can bounce back and force that ace match. It is Nicoract. And this morning, in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the South Korean Zerg player, the Blue Zerg, representing Team Falcons. It is Rogue. And if you're in the chat, predictions are now open. Place your bets on who you think will claim the series. Best of luck in the chat as we jump into game number 2. Again, Rogue does take that lead. Nicoract is known for his aggression, is what I will say, in the TVZ matchup. Likewise, coming into this, Nicoract is going to be spawning into Era Home. Era Home, and we were just here, but this is a rush map, short rush distance by ground. Likewise, the bases are quite close together as well, and we'll see how Nicoract will make use of this map, make use of Era Home. I'm ready. I'm excited. Let's go. Speaking on, I guess Spanish a little bit here, as oh no, I feel bad for the fan of Max Packs now. Never mind. I'm sure we'll get into some Max Packs later on in the evening. Don't you worry. But speaking on, I guess, Spanish a little bit, I know Enki, he did offer for me to jump on to a Spanish podcast, and it's tempting. I'll be honest, I'm not too. What's the best way of putting this? I'm not too confident. No tengo mucho confianza in my Spanish, just because I never properly learned Spanish. Obviously, I learned through my parents and through my grandparents and through my family, my uncles, aunties, all that stuff when it comes to being raised and speaking Spanish at home. But it's not like I formally learned Spanish. So because of that, basically my Spanish is very conversational. There are a lot of words that I'm not too familiar with. Basically, I can understand everything. I can listen to, I even listen to the podcast every now and then, and everything is fine. But I can see myself having a hard time expressing myself at times, just because there are certain more specific words that I just don't use, in everyday modern conversations. Conversationally, there are certain words that you just don't use very often, and because of that, my vocabulary, that's probably a better way of putting it, my vocabulary is a little bit more limited. So that's why I know there've been requests to hear me cast in Spanish. No shot. There's no shot I could ever it's just it'll be too difficult. I can understand cast in Spanish, but doing it myself, I'm not too confident in. When it comes to going on a podcast, then maybe that will be possible. I think that will be a little bit easier, but we'll see. We'll see. Shout out to Enki, by the way. El Hermoso. Much love to Enki. Did offer. Now though, gonna be settling in. We do have our show. Oh my, we're just waiting for a link flood. Oh my god. We have 28 links on the way, and it's gonna be all or nothing. Back at home, Nicoract gonna be going for a BC opener back at home, going for the Fusion Core, going for battle cruisers. Meanwhile, Rogue is going for a massive link flood early on. Does avoid the initial Reaper Hellion. And we spoke about this earlier. Era Home is known for being a rush map, a short rush distance by ground. Rogue, he's taking full advantage of that by flooding in towards that natural base. Nicoract, he does miss the move out, is unaware. And ideally, Rogue, he's waiting for the Hellions. Basically, there are 4 Hellions back at home. He sees the move out. He sees 2. 2 move out. As they move out, Rogue moves in. Does flood in. He wants to surround. Does want it. Hellions, they pull back in time, they get behind the mineral line. Butlings, they get to surround 1 Hellion, 4 second Hellion as well. And Nicoract, he will clean this up, but after taking some losses here. 2 Hellions, 6 SCVs, Nicoract, he will defend. And Nicoract, he doesn't get scouted. Bear this in mind. BC production still underway. Rogue coming in for the scout. He will confirm. I love the fake out though. What do we see? Cloak. Fake Cloak. He's faking out Banshee play, making it look normal. Rogue, he pulls away. Back at home, Queens are amassing. We should be seeing Spores as well. Rogue is going to be getting ready for Banshees, which coincides in a way with Battlecruiser. Yo. That's a second starport. Are we going to board BC? It's gonna take a while, but okay, let's go. Second starport, massing up more battle cruisers. Nicoract, he's gonna commit, and we'll see how this works out for him. We'll see if he's able to bank up those BCs, and if he moves out with the first one, or if he waits for a second. Hellions poke in, BC teleports in towards the main, or actually on top of the queens. It's going for the queens, he gets one. He wants the others. Queens, they're going to be targeted down, they're going to be lacking transfuse. Gets one, gets a second queen. Yeah, second queen goes down, gets a third queen as well. Good PiGosaur here by Nicoract, gets a fourth queen. Now he has to pull away. Has to pull away, BC will survive. And Nicoract, he doesn't break Rogue, but he does trade well. As long as he doesn't lose the BC. Pulls away, Hellions likewise, they dive into the mineral line, they at least attempt to. Lynx are keeping up. Nicoract, he will pull out. Oh, gets surrounded though. It gets caught on creep. Now, on the one hand, Rogue defends. Rogue defends, he does preserve his mineral line, he's on a relatively healthy drone count, but little does he know that Nicoract, he's doubling down. 2-port BC here, we have Yamato on the way as well. Nicoract, he commits, he's doubling down. And we'll see if he's able to catch Rogue with his pants down. Rogue, he's going for the safety Spire, thankfully. He's going for the Spire. With this, he's going to Corruptor, going to Mutas. Cannon built up. So far, he's rotating, keeping it with the Hellions. Likewise, for three BCs they teleport in. Oh my, that's just so many BCs. Is 7 queens gonna be enough? Speaking of, one queen is going to go down. Oh, yeah, she does get the one transfuse, but queens are being targeted one after the other. Queens are falling. He gets 1, 2, 3, 4 queens fall. Hellions, they bust into the mineral line, and he finds the Spire. He finds that he's going to shut it down, and with that, Nicoract, he may just take the game. One BC is getting low, but GG gets called. He overwhelms, and Nicoract ties up the series 1-1. We are going to the ace match. GG. Whew, oh my god. GG, well played. We are going to game 3. Again, very nice catch there by Nicoract. Going 2-port BC, went unscouted. And as you saw, 7 queens, not enough. Not enough there to deal with those battle cruisers. Likewise, the Spire got found, Spire got focused down. And with that, we have a back and forth. We have a series. Let us go. And there is a chance here that Nicoract can eliminate Rogue from the tournament. Where are we dropping though? What is our next map? Up next, Starchild. Ooh, one of the larger maps in the map pool. So Starchild is a macro map, much larger, and because of that, aggression is going to be less favored here. It goes both ways. Rogue with his Link Flood going to be less effective, I should say. Likewise, Nicoract with his BC aggression most likely is not going to work 2 games in a row. So what are we going for? We're here to find out. We'll see how this story ends. As spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Starchild, we have our red Terran player. We have our red Terran representing the Platinum Heroes, tying up the series 1-1, forcing the ace match. It is Nicoract. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have the South Korean Zerg player. We have the blue Zerg representing Team Falcons, being forced into game 3. Can he bounce back, or does his tournament run end here and now? It is Rogue. Good. Me gusta tu voz, man. Yeah, gracias. I appreciate it. So now we're settling in. Settling into our game. And again, we'll see how our players do diverge. Now, when it comes to Starchild, as I just mentioned, the Starchild has a much more defendable natural and third and even fourth location, is a larger map in the map pool, it's more macro oriented. Now, the map does open up throughout the course of the game. There are a lot of rocks, and once they get knocked down, it is easier to rotate between these bases and to punish a defending player. But up until those 4 bases, it is a little bit easier to secure yourself. So we do expect a longer game here on Starchild. We'll see if Nicoract tries to be aggressive and tries to be a little bit cheeky, but for the most part, I feel like we're expecting to get into at least a 3-base setup, a 3-base economy. We'll see if Nicoract does diverge. Same with Rogue. Now, if we do expect Rogue to play standard and play macro, we do expect to see Lingbane Hydra into Lurker tech. Rogue, he's very fond of rushing into Lurkers and rushing into the late game. That's where Rogue really thrives. That's where he can take it to the best of them. We'll see if he does head in that direction here. Go. As Reaper does move out, dances with the Lings. I believe Rogue, yep, he did hide his drone. It does take us third on time, on location. Not too much issue. Does claim his third. Likewise, Reaper pokes in. Gonna be zoned away. Rogue is holding, and there's no major losses. Nicoract, he scouts, he checks, does confirm the third location, and we'll see if he goes for something different here. Now this time it is 3cc, but it's not a 3cc 111, it is a 3cc 211. That is a second rack on the way. We are going for a stim timing. So much more aggressive here by Nicoract. Now, there are some pros and cons to this build that Nicoract is going for, as he does, once again, dance with the Lings. But the big con here is we're going to be lacking Hellions. We are opening with some Hellions, that is true. We're getting our first 2, and we're getting a 3rd and 4th Hellion as well, but we shouldn't be committing into any more than this. 4 Hellions at the most to keep us somewhat safe and to have some map control, but this is going to be a far call from the otherwise 6 to 8 Hellions that we're used to here. So cutting Hellion production early on, you're going for an add-on swap into mainly bioproduction into that stim timing. Now this should be with 14 Marines. 14 Marines, double Medevac stim timing on the way for Nicoract. Now because the Hellion count is going to be lower, this does mean that the creep from Rogue is going to go more uncontested. Not completely, but it's going to be difficult for Nicoract to really punish some of these tumors more so than he usually can. So the creep is going to get a little bit more uncontested, a little bit more out of control. Likewise, Rogue will be able to drone up more greedily here because of the lower Hellion count. Likewise, he can skip on link production, and Rogue can cut some corners. He can cut corners up until a certain point because that stim timing is on the way. Now we should be going for another add-on swap. The factory is only making add-ons, going for the reactor, add-on swap into reactor to medevac. There's that swap. And once the medevacs arrive, then Nicoract can push. And now with these Marines, the goal is to hunt down Overlords, hunt down Queens, and maintain map control that way. Instead of going mass Hellion, is with bio production instead. So kind of a different approach here. It's a different approach. And this makes the most sense on larger maps. The reason for this is because Hellions are less effective anyway on Starchild, just because the map is so large, just because it can be so awkward rotating in between these attack paths. Committing to Hellions makes a little bit less sense on a map like Starchild or Abyssal Reef or Neon Violet Square or King's Cove. This is why most Terrans avoid that. And here come those 14 Marines. As we mentioned, 14 Marines. They do move out. The reason why there's not 16 is, if you recall, we did make an extra pair of Hellions. These Marines do move out. Make the way towards that 5th. As Rogue is double expanding, Queens are in position, and with the Queens here, Rogue, he should hold. And Rogue, he's up to 10 Queens. army sims in. Again, clearing a creep. Does get an overlord as well, not bad. Now, Nicoract, he cannot engage with the queens head-on, but he can skirt around the edge and deny more creep. Behind this, it is going to be Lingbane out of Rogue. Getting into 1-1 upgrades. Boros on the way. And rushing into Hive. Now, I was expecting, if you recall, at the start of the game, I mentioned how Rogue, he typically does like to go Lingbane Hydra into Lurker Tech, and that's kind of like his go-to in this matchup. But I don't see a Hydra Den, which means this looks like Lingbane into Ultra. Oh boy. And Lingbane Ultra can hit quite hard. It definitely has a big power spike, especially before there are ghosts, before there are heavy Marauder counts. As Nicoract moves out, we're getting ready for a massive Lingbane run-by. Nicoract, he does pull back home though. Does pull back around. Banelings are waddling into the mineral line. Nicoract, he does pull away. Does pull away. The Banelings are very slow, they cannot engage. But this buys time. Again, Bailing speed was delayed in favor of 1-1 upgrades, so late Bailing speed out of Rogue. He gets punished for it. But the pit is now done, and we should be commencing the Hive momentarily. There we go. Hive is on the way. This almost confirms it is going to be Lingbane Ultra. Well, Nicoract, he does start his Ghost Academy. Let's go. Working towards Ghosts. Double jump across the map. Nicoract just creating distraction. Likewise, Bailing speed is done this time. Nicoract, he does have to take care. Is pushing onto creep. He's being very careful though. Sieges up on the high ground. Does take it slow. Rogue, he responds. Hive is about to finish. Rogue is the first to max out. And we are waiting for that Ultra Cavern. As the Hive is now done. First Erling run by. Oof. Runs into the army. There's the Ultra Cavern, as I did mention. Now, when it comes to Lingbane Ultra, the power spike, of course, arrives with the Ultras. The downside of this composition, and the downside of this build that Rogue is going for, is lack of anti-air. As you can see, no Hydra Den. So there's no Hydras, there's no Spire, there's no Mutas, there's no Corruptors. The anti-air has to be reliant on Vipers. That's where Vipers come into play. That's where Power Bombs come into play. That's going to be like the main anti-air for Rogue. Ooh, is that a kill? It's a kill, not bad. Kill, not a cancel. But this means that Nicoract, he can be more aggressive and more successful with these drops. We can see that Nicoract, for the most part, is staying back home though. I mean, that's the downside of having such a large map. Nicoract, he's a little bit less incentivized to go for this drop play. So the bases are more or less untouched. Outside of the death of that hatchery, of course. Okay, Rogue does move out, runs into the drop. Likewise, Rogue setting up his own Dropper Lords here on the left hand side towards the center. Oh, Nicoract, he will take some Banelings to the face. Nice target fire. Oh my god, target fires every single Bailing. Nicoract trading well here. Still forced to lift, but he does come across the Dropper Lords. Yeah, massive scout here for Nicoract. He does see the Dropper Lords. He is aware. Has turrets in position. The Dropper Lords are really a distraction. Rogue, he rotates towards the left hand side. And Nicoract, he does take the bait. He doesn't know that they're empty. Lingbane rolls in, the army's out of position, and Rogue is going for the Planetary. Planetary is going to go down. Yeah, Nicoract caught with his pants down. And he will lose the expansion. He will lose the Planetary. Banelings will be rolling in. Oh, they crash into Ghosts. get two ghosts. Two ghosts go down, and Nicoract, he might just be forced to counterattack. As he has to do something. Yeah, he has to push in. Does need to move in, but there are 12 Banelings on the way. There's 4 Ultras as well. It's not going to be easy. Rogi just keeps counterattacking. So let's just keep going. Base is going to fall. Lanes are coming from behind. A little bit premature. As things take time on the tanks, they will get them. 2 tanks go down. Ultras have been amassing. Does find all the ghosts as well. Yeah, they get left behind. No, the ghosts. They get left behind. Ghost count gets reset. And what was the answer to the Ultras? The answer was meant to be the ghosts, and they've all gone down. Now there are no ghosts. Vipers come in with their power bombs. As I mentioned, that's the anti-air. Ultras, they flood on in, and looks like Nicoract has been broken. As Rogue, he breaks through the 4th base initially, and now the 3rd as well. Just too much Zerg. There's too much of a swarm. Takes down the tanks. GG gets called. There's nothing left, and Rogue will take the series 2-1, advancing on to the next round. GG. GG, well played. Rogue will claim the series, but a big shout out to Nicoract, as Nicoract, he did it amazingly here at forcing the ace match, at taking down Rogue in game 2, and even here in game 3, Nicoract, he was keeping up. Unfortunately, it was one wrong move, or one slip up, and if you remember what that moment was the Doom Drop. Was the fake Doom Drop from Rogue into the main base, did force a big reaction out of Nicoract. He was dragged out of position, and because of that, his 4th base was exposed, and that was the beginning of the end. Once he lost the 4th, he was all in. Once he lost the 4th base, he was all in. He was forced to push onto creep, he got surrounded, he lost everything, and the game ended from there. You could argue as well that that Nicoract, he was lacking a sensor tower. That would have let Nicoract know that there was an assault ready at the 4th base and it was coming in. Maybe that would have given him a little bit more time. Likewise, it's just a hard call to make, just because you see all those dropper lords, you assume they're full of units, but they weren't, right? They were empty, and yeah, Nicoract, he was deceived in that way. GG. GG, well played. Rogue will claim the series, and with that, question becomes, where are we headed next? What is our next series? Let's switch our teams over and catch up on the bracket.